you said something like this. You said, we have no choice but to work together. And it seems to be a message that isn't resonating right now with Republican primary voters who aren't interested in compromise and coming together. They're interested in the case of Congress, maybe burning the place down.
Well, I think that's why they want working together, because they want to burn Congress down because it doesn't do anything. I mean, let's face it. I was out on the trail, as you know, a lot in 2014, helping governor's candidates and Senate candidates to get elected. What have these guys done, these Senate candidates, new senators, that they promised to do? We don't have tax reform on the president's desk. We don't have a repeal and replacement of Obamacare on the desk. We don't have any of the things that they ran on the desk. Make the president veto them. And this is why people can't stand Congress.
Did they overpromise and obviously they've underdelivered. Was it an overpromise? Was it unrealistic?
No, I think they've underdelivered. And the fact is, you would never, as an executive, you would never be allowed to have this. Remember, Chuck, I have a Democratic legislature in New Jersey. I've had it the whole time. I've had 400 vetoes that I've done in 5.5 years. And Americans for Tax Reform just said I've vetoed more tax increases than any governor in American history. But at the same time, we passed the property tax cap. We reformed teacher tenure. We reformed the pension and benefits system. With a Democratic legislature, you can stand up and be strong, as I've done in New Jersey, and still find a way to work together and compromise. But these folks on Capitol Hill have no interest in doing that. They care more about being on shows like this inside the Beltway and, spouting off things.
Well, let's talk about your record in New Jersey, because you got to run on it, and voters are
happy to run on it.
Well, let's look at it, because here I want to put up right now, New Jersey is ranked 50th for business tax climate, 47th for doing business, 46th for growth in 2014. The unemployment rate is below the U.S. average. How is this a record that Americans should say, you know what, we want what you did in New Jersey, we want you to do that for America?
Yeah, you should have seen what it looked like when I got there. I mean, the fact is that they had 115 tax increases in the 7 years before I became governor. We vetoed every tax increase. There was no net private sector job creation, Chuck, in the 8 years before I became governor. Zero. Mm-hmm. We've created 198,000 new jobs in the last 5.5 years. And the fact is that we spend $2.5 billion less than we used to. But here's the bigger thing. What they wanted was somebody in New Jersey who was going to finally stand up and say no to higher taxes, no to more spending, and more yes to parental involvement, parental choice. We've done all those things in New Jersey. And so anybody can pick out any kind of statistics they want. But in New Jersey, it's much better today than it was 6 years ago.
But this issue on spending and taxes, though, actually has led, I think, to this. Richard Quiring on Facebook, when we told Facebook, we do this with all the candidates, you're going to be on. Here's the question he had for you. He said, why does he deserve to be president when he has set a record with 9 downgrades for the state of New Jersey while governor? He's referring to the 9 credit downgrades. And some of it is because you have cut taxes too much, and therefore you've left the state, perhaps, or you've left the state without enough money.
That's simply not true.
To be fiscally responsible.
You know what it is, Chuck? It is the public sector unions who refuse to do even more compromising on pensions. And that's creating, if you look at the credit downgrades, they're all about long-term pension problems. Now, we've saved $120 billion in the pension system over the next 30 years on what we've done already. But the unions continue to want more and more and more. And in a Democratic state like New Jersey, it's tough to get them to even push even further. But think about this. What the last credit report said was if the pension problem were fixed, New Jersey would be in good fiscal condition. And that's because we cut spending $2.5 billion from 16 lower than where it was in fiscal year 08. So this is not about not having enough revenue. The government was too big. We've made it smaller. And if the pension system continues to get better, we'll be fine.
Except, all right, but if you haven't really been able to fully solve the crisis and make Democrats do what you want them to do in New Jersey, how are you going to do it in Washington?
Well, wait a second. We took a pension system that was absolutely ready to go under, and we've now put it as a pension system that's paying its bills and, in fact, has done better over the course of the 6 years that I've been governor than it's done in the 2 decades before. So the fact is you're doing and making progress. But here's the bottom line. We got a Senate Democratic president to be able to sit down and sponsor a pension reform bill that cut COLAs, that raised retirement age. Does it sound familiar on things that we need to do in Washington, D.C.? And I got the Democrats to do that in the face of 10,000 union protesters on the front steps of the State House. So I have absolutely no doubt that I can come down to Congress, not cave like other people have done, and get the job done.
Last 18 months, you've been dogged at home by the whole Bridgegate mess. This week, the butterfly effect of Bridgegate ended up leading to the resignation of the CEO of United Airlines. And it all has to do with perhaps some quid pro quo with somebody that was once described as your mentor, David Sampson, who ran the Port Authority. Let me ask you this question. You've got 4 people that were very close to you that were either indicted, have pled guilty, or are under investigation. What should we take away from this as Americans when we think about you? Either that you had bad judgment in the people you picked, or you created a climate where people thought they could operate this way?
Neither. Here's what happens. For 13 years, I've been in public life, both as a U.S. attorney and as governor. And I'll tell you, I've set an incredibly high standard for all of our people to have to reach every day. And I hold them to that standard. And here's what a real leader does. You can't, when you have 60,000 people working for you, Chuck, determine...
David Sampson's not 60,000.
No, of course he's one of...
But first of all, this is as big of an appointment as you make in New Jersey,
First of all, you have absolutely no idea. You have no idea as you sit here today that he did anything wrong. Nor does anybody else. And so let's stop just reading the newspapers, okay? And so let's go to the
stop reading the newspapers on
Let's stop reading the newspapers and just blathering back what that is, okay? Here's the bottom line. When you have all these folks working for you, David included, the fact is that you hold them to high standards. And if they don't meet those high standards, what a decisive leader does is you take action and you terminate them. And that's what you do if you don't think they've been held to the standards. That's the standard I hold myself to and everyone else to. What really matters, as Hillary Clinton's finding out, is how you react to a crisis. Not that there never will be any crises, but how you react to it. And what did I do? When we had a crisis, the next day I went out and took questions for an hour and 50 minutes, no holds barred. Let's wait to see if Mrs. Clinton ever does 1/5 of that on her crises. What people want from their leaders is honesty and candor, not perfection. And I can't ensure perfection from everybody, but I will hold everyone to those high standards today and when I'm President of the United States.
If you're President of the United States, what will you do as far as transparency is concerned, political appointments, that will make folks feel better that what happened at the Port Authority and in your governor's office won't happen in your presidency?
The same thing that I've been doing every day, both as U.S. attorney and as governor for the last 13 years. Hold myself to the highest standards, and if mistakes are made, to hold the people responsible who make those mistakes and to discuss it with the public openly and transparently, which is exactly what I did. And remember this, Chuck, everything I said 18 months ago in an hour and 50-minute long press conference, after 3 investigations, not one thing has been contradicted that I said. And so the fact is that, you know, people love to make a big deal about this stuff, but in the end, it's how a leader reacts. That's exactly the way I'll react. And I wish Barack Obama might have reacted that way to the IRS scandal. Maybe Barack Obama would have reacted a lot differently to some of the other things that happened, been transparent. And maybe he should stand up today and say to Hillary Clinton, Madam Secretary, this is a stain on my administration. Stand up and fully cooperate, reveal all information, and answer every question, and ask all the people that are around you to cooperate as well. He hasn't done that, and that's a failure of leadership.
Is the Port Authority a stain on your administration?
No, it is not. Nothing has been proven yet. So let's see what happens, Chuck.
All right. Let me ask you one final question here. When it comes to what's going on, earlier this week you had sort of a tiff, I think, with the leaders in New York City about whether it's safe in New York City or not. And Bill Bratton simply said, you know what? Governor Christie shouldn't throw stones from glass houses with broken windows, and basically implying that New Jersey's more unsafe than New York City. How do you respond to that?
Completely ridiculous. And listen, I have a lot of respect for Bill Bratton. When Bill Bratton worked for Rudy Giuliani, crime went significantly down in New York City. Now Bill Bratton works for Bill de Blasio, and murders are up 9% this year, and shootings are up 20%. What's the one variable in that? The Democratic liberal policies of Bill de Blasio in New York City, which is making the city unsafe. I will tell you, when I sat and watched Bill de Blasio the other day talk about how it's safer in New York City, it's ironic that the only person who thinks it's safer in New York City are guys who are walking around with armed guards all the time.
Bill Bratton said the same thing. Well, but it's not just Bill de Blasio.
By the way, he's walking around with an armed guard, too. I said the only guys, plural, who think it are people who walk around with armed guards. And I saw the mayor say the other day, well, it's only 10 more murders. Well, let me tell you this, Chuck. As a former prosecutor and as a governor, tell that to the 10 families who people lost their lives. More this year in New York City so far. Every life matters. And the fact is that this mayor shows a disregard for that. And why is it that, wait a second, why is it that in cities across the country, like in ours, in Camden, where we fired the entire police force along with an African-American Democrat mayor, okay, we fired the entire police force, got rid of their bloated union contract, have 150 more cops on the street than we did 3 years ago. You know what's happening in Camden, New Jersey? The murder rate in the last 3 years is down 61%. I'll enforce law and order in this country as President of the United States. This president's allowed lawlessness, and Bill de Blasio is just another symptom of that lawlessness.
All right, Governor Christie, I got to leave it there. How important is this debate for you Wednesday?
It's important for everybody. Every time you get a chance to be in front of 20, 25 million people in this race, it's important. I'm ready, and I will have a great time. And, you know, I'll make you laugh a couple of times this week, Chuck.
Fair enough.
I guarantee it.
Governor, appreciate you coming on. Stay safe on the trail.
Happy to be back.